Did you know Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle's life and career were ruined by one of the biggest scandals in early Hollywood history, despite his acquittal? From the scandal that ended Ingrid Bergman to the reckless life of Errol Flynn. Here are awful 25 nasty secrets from the old golden age of Hollywood. 1. Marilyn Monroe's struggles. Born Norma Jean in 1926, Marilyn Monroe was the picture of beauty, fame, and allure. But behind that glowing smile was a life marked by pain and deep sadness. Her childhood was unstable. Marilyn's mother struggled with mental illness, and she was shuffled between foster homes. The feeling of being unwanted followed her all her life. As she rose to fame, Marilyn dazzled audiences with her roles, but her personal life was a storm of insecurity and sadness. The pressure to be the perfect star made her turn to prescription medications for sleep and anxiety. Her relationships were messy too, with rumored affairs that tied her to powerful men, even political figures like John F. Kennedy. The secrets of those relationships have fueled conspiracy theories for decades. In 1962, she was found dead of an overdose, but even her death was mysterious. Was it an accident? Was there something more sinister? We may never know. Marilyn's life, filled with glamour on the outside but sadness within, stands as a chilling reminder of what fame can really cost. 2. The forgotten faces. The silent film era brought fame to many, but that fame was fleeting. When sound came in the late 1920s, some stars were left behind. Clara Bow, the original It Girl, was one of them. She was the face of the jazz age, full of life and charm, but when talkies came, her career crumbled. The demands of the new era, along with her personal struggles, were too much. John Gilbert, another silent film hero, suffered a similar fate. Studio politics, a voice that critics claimed didn't fit the new films, and the harsh judgment of the industry ended his stardom. Once adored by millions, he was left in the shadows, forgotten as the world moved on to newer stars and newer stories. Many silent film stars faced this harsh reality. Their fame ended almost overnight. They went from glamorous premieres to obscurity, and many ended up broke, struggling to adapt to a world that had left them behind. Fame, once lost, can be a cruel ghost. 3. The blacklist. In the 1940s and 50s, fear ran through Hollywood. The House Un-American Activities Committee began looking for communist influence, and that meant pointing fingers. Careers were ruined in a heartbeat, with baseless accusations and personal grudges turning into lifelong black marks. The Hollywood 10, a group of writers and directors, refused to cooperate. They stood by their rights, but that bravery cost them. They were jailed, blacklisted, and many had to work under false names. The gossip columnists, especially the infamous Hedda Hopper, added fuel to the fire, outing and accusing those they disliked. Studios caved under pressure, terrified of losing audiences and money. The blacklist crushed careers, broke friendships, and spread fear. Though it finally ended in the 1960s, the scars it left behind lingered, a dark reminder of how easily fear can stifle creativity and destroy lives. 4. The fall of Fatty Arbuckle. In 1921, Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle was at the top of his game, a beloved comedian adored by audiences. But all that changed during a party in San Francisco. Actress Virginia Rappe became ill and died days later. Arbuckle was accused of causing her death through an assault, and the scandal that followed destroyed him. 3 trials followed. The first 2 ended with hung juries, but the third finally acquitted him, with an apology from the jurors for what they saw as a terrible injustice. Still, the damage was done. Arbuckle's career was over, and the media had already painted him as a monster. Hollywood turned its back on him, withdrawing his films and severing all ties. Though Arbuckle tried to return, working under other names, he never regained his fame. He died in obscurity, a victim of public judgment that refused to let go, even without evidence. His story is a reminder of how quickly the court of public opinion can turn, and how brutal it can be. 5. The studio system's dark grip. Hollywood in the golden age was ruled by the big studios, MGM, Warner Brothers, and others. They made stars, but they also controlled them completely. Actors signed contracts that let studios decide almost everything about their lives. These ironclad contracts dictated how they acted, how they looked, even who they dated. Morality clauses were used to force stars into arranged marriages or cover up scandals. Some were even made to have abortions to protect their image. Judy Garland was just one star who was forced into a relentless schedule, given stimulants to keep her working, and put on strict diets that hurt her health. Stars like Bette Davis and Joan Crawford fought back against this control, but they paid a heavy price. The system finally started to fall apart in the late 1940s, when antitrust rulings broke the studio monopolies and independent filmmaking began to rise. But the exploitation left deep wounds, and the glamorous golden age was not as bright as it seemed. 6. The unsolved death of William Desmond Taylor. In 1922, the film world was shaken by the mysterious death of William Desmond Taylor. Taylor, a successful director known for movies like Huckleberry Finn, was found dead in his home, shot in the back. Despite a long investigation, the case was never solved, and the list of suspects seemed endless. Actresses Mabel Normand and Mary Miles Minter were at the center of the scandal. Normand, who had her own struggles with addiction, was close to Taylor, and her ties brought suspicion. Mary Miles Minter, who had a romantic obsession with Taylor, and her controlling mother, Charlotte Shelby, were also suspected. The love letters from Minter and the rumors about Shelby's rage created a story the public couldn't resist. The tragedy exposed the darker side of Hollywood, its scandals, its secrets, its danger. Despite all the attention, Taylor's assailant was never caught, leaving one of the most haunting mysteries in Hollywood's history. 7. The Strange Life of Howard Hughes. A man of many talents, Howard Hughes was a film producer, aviation pioneer, and billionaire. He was also a man full of secrets. He made blockbuster films like Hell's Angels and was involved with some of the biggest actresses of the time, including Katharine Hepburn and Ava Gardner. But Hughes wasn't just rich and powerful, he was controlling, obsessive, and full of strange habits. Over time, Hughes became a recluse. His obsessive-compulsive disorder worsened, and his behavior turned more and more bizarre. He locked himself away, lived in dark rooms, and was terrified of germs. His strange actions became legendary, and by the time he died in 1976, he was no longer the bold, adventurous mogul the world once knew. Hughes's life is a cautionary tale of what unchecked power, money, and isolation can do. The man who once seemed to have everything was, in the end, lost in his own fears and obsessions. 8. The Tragic Fall of Frances Farmer. The story of Frances Farmer is one of the most tragic cautionary tales in Hollywood. Stunning, talented, and fearless, she was a rising star in the 1930s and 1940s who wasn't afraid to speak her mind. Her defiance made her a target in an industry that demanded obedience. Refusing to conform to Hollywood's rigid rules marked the beginning of her end. Farmer's journey through fame was marked by a rebellious spirit that led many in the industry to label her difficult. The pressures mounted, and soon her mental health began to falter. In 1943, she was forcibly institutionalized. Inside those cold clinical walls, her spirit was further crushed, subjected to brutal treatments like electroshock therapy. There are even whispered claims that she endured a lobotomy, though it's never been confirmed. But even without that, her story was one of torment. This wasn't just the story of a star who lost her way. It was about Hollywood's cruelty to those who refused to play by its rules. Farmer's attempts to make a comeback never fully succeeded. The trauma she faced stayed with her until her final days, a haunting reminder of how the system punished those who didn't fall in line. 9. The Hollywood Sign and the Death of Peg Entwistle. Coming to Hollywood with big dreams, Peg Entwistle was young, talented, and had already tasted success on Broadway. But when she moved to Los Angeles, the silver screen didn't embrace her as she had hoped. After only one credited role, she found herself struggling, lost in a sea of rejection. One fateful September night in 1932, Peg climbed the famous Hollywood sign back when it still read Hollywoodland and leaped from the H. She was only 24 years old. Her body was found with a note that spoke of despair and dreams left unfulfilled. Her story became one of Hollywood's most iconic tragedies, a symbol of what happens when dreams collide with the harsh reality of the film industry. 10. The exploitation of child stars. The golden age wasn't only harsh on adults. Child actors were often treated like disposable commodities, with their youth stolen for the sake of fame and money. Shirley Temple, Judy Garland, and Jackie Coogan were some of the most famous child stars. But their lives were far from ideal. Shirley Temple was marketed relentlessly, used to sell anything and everything. Her image was a money machine for the studios, and her well-being often came second to profit. Jackie Coogan, another famous face, earned millions, only to have his parents squander it all. His loss led to the creation of the Coogan Law, meant to protect young performers from financial exploitation, but for Coogan himself, it was too late. The pressure to perform left scars. As these children grew up, they faced media scrutiny, addiction, and depression. Judy Garland's story stands as a grim example, forced to take pills to stay awake, pills to sleep. Her life was tightly controlled until she broke under the weight of it all. The bright lights of the stage couldn't hide the darkness that consumed them. How much innocence was lost in the pursuit of Hollywood's dreams. 11. The mystery of Thomas H. Ince's death. A Hollywood pioneer, Thomas H. Ince was a talented producer and director. But in 1924, his life ended under strange circumstances while aboard William Randolph Hearst's yacht. Official reports said it was a heart attack, but rumors of foul play surfaced almost immediately. Some believe Hearst, in a jealous rage, aimed a gun at actor Charlie Chaplin, who he suspected of having an affair with his mistress, actress Marion Davies, and accidentally shot Ince instead. Witness accounts from that night were contradictory, and the quick cremation of Ince's body only fueled more suspicion. What really happened aboard that yacht? The incident unveiled the decadence and secrecy of Hollywood's elite. No one was ever charged, and the truth remains a mystery, hidden by those powerful enough to keep it that way. 12. The death of Superman. The face of Superman, George Reeves, was beloved by fans everywhere. But in 1959, his life came to an abrupt and suspicious end. Reeves was found dead from a gunshot wound, and though his death was ruled a suicide, there were too many inconsistencies for everyone to accept the official story. Reeves was frustrated, his career stuck in the shadow of Superman. Friends reported he was struggling with depression, but others pointed to strange evidence, like the lack of gunpowder residue on his hands and the odd angle of the bullet wound. Was it really suicide, or was something darker at play? His love life was complicated. Reeves had an affair with Toni Mannix, the wife of a powerful MGM executive, and later became engaged to Leonore Lemon, whose behavior during the investigation only deepened the mystery. Was his death a tragic choice, or did someone else pull the trigger? The truth about George Reeves may never come to light, leaving us to wonder what really happened to the Man of Steel. 13. The haunting end of Olive Thomas. A silent film beauty, Olive Thomas was full of life and promise until her sudden death in 1920 at just 25. She was in Paris with her husband, Jack Pickford, when she drank mercury bichloride, a highly toxic substance meant for his medical treatment. Was it an accident or something more sinister? That night, Olive mistook the unmarked bottle for medicine or water. Pickford rushed her to the hospital, but it was too late. Rumors swirled. Was it suicide, an accident, or even foul play? The mysterious circumstances and her troubled marriage made people question the truth. Olive's tragic end shocked the world and became one of Hollywood's earliest scandals. 14. The dark power of Louis B. Mayer. One of the founders of MGM Studios, Louis B. Mayer helped shape Hollywood's golden age. But behind the success lay a story of control, exploitation, and manipulation. Mayer held immense power over his stars, especially young actresses, Contracts were tight, rules were strict, and his influence extended into every part of their lives. Judy Garland spoke of the emotional damage Mayer caused. His demands wore her down, and she wasn't the only one. Jean Harlow and other stars suffered under his tight grip. Their lives managed to protect MGM's pristine image. Mayer even arranged marriages to keep scandals at bay, caring little for the happiness of the stars involved. Mayer's legacy is a reminder of the dark side of Hollywood's studio system, where power was everything and stars were tools to be used and discarded. 15. The troubled legacy of Charlie Chaplin. A genius who brought laughter to millions, Charlie Chaplin also held secrets that haunted his legacy. Known for his little tramp character, his personal life was far from charming. Chaplin's deep fascination with much younger women eventually tarnished his public image. He married 3 teenagers over the years: Mildred Harris, Lita Gray, and finally Una O'Neill, each relationship sparking whispers, accusations, and public disapproval. The 1940s brought perhaps his most scandalous moment. He faced a paternity suit from actress Joan Barry. Despite blood tests proving Chaplin wasn't the father, the court still ruled in Barry's favor, forcing Chaplin to pay child support. The newspapers had a field day, dragging his reputation through the mud. Adding to his troubles were his political leanings. During the Red Scare, Chaplin was accused of communist sympathies and faced intense scrutiny by the FBI and the House Un-American Activities Committee. In 1952, amidst these mounting controversies, he left the United States for good, settling in Switzerland. He continued making films, but kept his distance from Hollywood. 16. The tragic fate of Lupe Vélez. Known as the Mexican Spitfire, Lupe Vélez was a burst of energy in the Hollywood scene of the 1930s and 1940s. Her fiery character made her a favorite in films like Mexican Spitfire and The Girl from Mexico. But behind her bright smile was a world filled with pain and despair. In 1944, at only 36 years old, Lupe took her own life. It is said that an unplanned pregnancy with actor Harold Marish, who refused to marry her, pushed her to the edge. Unable to face the shame society would bring upon her, she wrote a sorrowful note and ended her life by taking barbiturates. The press wasted no time sensationalizing her death, exaggerating details to make the story even more lurid. Her vibrant spirit, her accomplishments, and her groundbreaking work as one of the first successful Mexican actresses in Hollywood, all were overshadowed by her tragic end. She paved the way for Latinx performers, but her death remains a sad reminder of the pressures placed on women in the spotlight. 17. The mysterious end of Carol Landis. A rising star of the 1940s, Carol Landis seemed to have it all: beauty, charm, and talent. She gained fame with roles in films like 1 Million BC, but behind her success was an inner darkness that would eventually consume her. In 1948, at just 29 years old, Carol took her life by overdosing on sleeping pills. The reason? A doomed affair with the married actor Rex Harrison. Carol was madly in love with him, but Harrison refused to leave his wife for her. Heartbroken and hopeless, she wrote a goodbye letter and ended her pain. The scandal shook the public. Rex Harrison, who found her body, faced heavy scrutiny. The affair, the hidden heartbreak, and the tragic ending all exposed the darker side of Hollywood, where love was often messy, unrequited, and deadly. 18. The reckless life of Errol Flynn. The quintessential Hollywood swashbuckler, Errol Flynn lived a life that mirrored his on-screen roles: bold, adventurous, and dangerous. Known for films like Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood, Flynn seemed to embody the idea of a dashing rogue. But off-screen, his actions brought nothing but trouble. In 1942, Flynn found himself in court, accused of statutory assault by 2 underage girls, Betty Hansen and Peggy Satterley. The nation watched, captivated, as Flynn charmed his way through the trial. Though he was ultimately acquitted, his reputation was forever tainted. The phrase, "in like Flynn," became a crude reference to his supposed ease in romantic conquests. But it wasn't just the trial. Flynn's life was a whirlwind of excessive drinking, financial ruin, and broken relationships. The reckless lifestyle that made him a star eventually contributed to his downfall, leaving behind a complicated legacy of charisma, marred by scandal. 19. The hidden child of Clark Gable. Forever remembered as the King of Hollywood, Clark Gable held a secret that remained buried for decades. He fathered a child with actress Loretta Young in 1935, a daughter named Judy Lewis. At the time, an out-of-wedlock child could destroy careers, so Young hid her pregnancy and later claimed to have adopted the baby. Gable, who was married, never publicly acknowledged Judy, though he is said to have had some limited contact with her. The truth only came to light many years later when Judy herself revealed her story in her memoir. The lengths Gable and Young went to in order to preserve their careers reveal the unforgiving nature of Hollywood's golden age, an age when appearances were everything and personal truths were sacrificed to maintain public images. 20. The scandal ended. Ingrid Bergman. Beloved by audiences worldwide, Ingrid Bergman faced her own share of scandal. In the late 1940s, her affair with Italian director Roberto Rossellini sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Both were married, Bergman to Swedish Dr. Petter Lindström and Rossellini to another woman. Their relationship led to the birth of a child, a revelation that stunned an era with rigid moral expectations. The backlash was swift and merciless. U.S. Senator Edwin C. Johnson publicly denounced Bergman as an instrument of evil, and Hollywood shut its doors to her. She moved to Europe and continued working with Rossellini, making films like Stromboli. It took nearly a decade for Bergman to rebuild her reputation, eventually returning to Hollywood and even winning an Academy Award for Anastasia in 1957. Bergman's comeback was a triumph, but it revealed the rigid moral double standards of the Golden Age. Hollywood forgave her, but only after years of exile, proof of how unforgiving the spotlight could be. 21. The untimely death of Thelma Todd. Known for her comedic brilliance in films like Monkey Business and Horse Feathers, Thelma Todd seemed to have it all: beauty, fame, and success. But one cold December day in 1935, her story took a tragic turn. The 29-year-old starlet was found dead in her car, parked in her lover's garage. The death was officially declared accidental, the result of carbon monoxide poisoning. But Hollywood knew better, and so did the public. Speculation ran wild. Mafia whispers swept through the glitzy boulevards. Rumors suggested that Todd had refused to let mobsters use her beloved sidewalk cafe for their illegal schemes, drawing dangerous enemies. Others pointed to her complex love life. Todd was entangled with Roland West, a married man, and her ex-husband, Pat DeSico, who was rumored to have mob connections himself. Was it an accident, or was it something far more sinister? Did she perhaps know too much, or had she simply trusted the wrong people? Decades later, the truth remains obscured, and Thelma Todd's untimely demise lingers as one of Hollywood's most mysterious tragedies. 22. The tragic end of Johnny Stompanato. No stranger to danger, Johnny Stompanato lived by the blade, a mob enforcer known as much for his ruthless ways as for his romance with Hollywood icon Lana Turner. Their relationship was nothing short of tumultuous, marked by glamour, passion, and ultimately conflict. It all came to a dramatic end on April 4, 1958, in Turner's own Beverly Hills home. Stompanato was stabbed to death, and the nation was left in shock. Lana's teenage daughter, Cheryl Crane, confessed to the fatal act. She claimed she was protecting her mother from the menacing threats of a man who had terrorized them for far too long. The death was ruled justifiable homicide, but that didn't stop the rumors. Had Lana herself been involved? Some speculated she may have taken matters into her own hands and used her daughter as a shield from scandal. The truth of that fateful night has never been fully unraveled. One thing remains certain: Johnny Stompanato's death marked a dark moment for the Hollywood elite, exposing a different side of the glitz and glamour that so often dazzled the public eye. 23. The bold scandal of Mae West. A force of nature, Mae West was a provocateur, a rebel, and a woman who embraced scandal as a part of her brand. In 1927, she wrote and starred in a play called Desire. It was so outrageous at the time that she ended up arrested and jailed for 8 days. Instead of cowering in shame, she used the moment to amplify her image. Hollywood took notice, and Mae West, with her wit and double entendres, would go on to become one of the most famous figures of her time. But her rebellious spirit didn't come without a price. During the 1930s, the strict censorship of the Hays Code sought to sanitize her films. She fought back, finding sly ways to keep her provocative humor alive while evading the scissors of censors. She pushed boundaries with every step, refusing to be confined by the rules of a male-dominated industry or by society's expectations of how women should behave. Despite the challenges, Mae West left a mark that would inspire countless women to embrace their individuality and challenge societal norms. She became a symbol of empowerment, a daring figure in an era determined to silence voices like hers. 24. The wild legacy of Tallulah Bankhead. Known for her talent and untamed spirit, Tallulah Bankhead was as famous for her scandalous personal life as she was for her acting prowess. With a raspy voice and a sharp tongue, she flaunted her unconventional lifestyle, openly embracing her fluid attractions at a time when such revelations were enough to end careers. Bankhead was linked to Hollywood royalty like Greta Garbo and music legend Billie Holiday, showing a complete disregard for the industry's rigid expectations. Her life was a whirlwind of parties, alcohol, and affairs. Headlines reveled in her flamboyance, from her bizarre public antics to her bold fashion statements. She struggled with substance dependency, yet still delivered captivating performances, whether on Broadway or on the silver screen in films like Lifeboat. Bankhead's defiance of convention made her a controversial figure, but also a beloved one. She carved out a unique space for herself in a world that expected conformity. Even today, her legacy remains, a rebellious spirit who dared to live life on her own terms. 25. The hidden truth of Rock Hudson. The heartthrob of Hollywood in the 1950s and 60s, Rock Hudson was the leading man women dreamed of, tall, handsome, with an effortless charm that lit up the screen in films like Pillow Talk. But behind his broad smile lay a secret that would have destroyed his career at the time. Rock Hudson was gay. In an era when being anything but conventionally straight was not only frowned upon, but career-ending, Hudson lived a double life. His studio, Universal Pictures, worked hard to construct an image of Hudson as the perfect romantic lead, arranging sham relationships with actresses to keep up appearances. The weight of this secret was immense, but Hudson maintained his public persona with grace, all while enduring the private pain of hiding his true self. It wasn't until the 1980s, after he was diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, that the truth came to light. Hudson's revelations stunned the world, but it also brought crucial awareness to the crisis. His openness in his final years helped to humanize a misunderstood epidemic and brought compassion to those affected. Today, Rock Hudson stands not only as a Hollywood icon, but as a symbol of resilience and bravery.